So, good evening. Today we'll see fertility preservation. Fertility preservation is a process by which we preserve the gamete, the sperm, the oocyte, or the gonadal tissue for the purpose of giving them a biological child in future. So, this concept is becoming a trend now because we are facing many cases of primary ovarian insufficiency or premature ovarian failure because of many diseases, benign diseases like endometriosis, galactosemia, Turner's, Fragile X, APLA, rheumatoid arthritis, many other vascular conditions, BRCA carriers, thalassemia, and many more. And this is also because of malignancy, say some Hodgkin's lymphoma or some hematological malignancy, for which they are taking radiotherapy and chemotherapy. For example, cyclophosphamide is toxic to the gonads. So gonadotoxicity is another reason for which we have to plan for fertility preservation before the beginning the treatment. And there is another reason for which we do fertility preservation, social reason. So when a woman is less than 35 years and she has some financial or psychological problem for which she is not able to bear the child now, but she wants to postpone it, we can preserve her oocyte, and the reimplantation or reutilization of the oocyte has to happen before the age of 50 years. So this is regarding for whom. Now we'll go for how. How are we going to do this? So we have four methods. One is the medical method. Second one is oocyte, embryo, and the ovarian tissue cryopreservation. So these four methods. Medical method, for example, they use GnRH analogs. What it is causing is, it is going to cause a premature menopause in the ovary. So because of the GnRH analog, the follicles are not multiplying, they are just remaining dormant and they are not metabolically active. So it escapes the toxicity of the drug that is administered. This was the concept. But this method is not used because it does not protect from the RT. So when a radiation is going to happen, the oocyte undergoes or the ovary undergoes atresia. The one thing that I would like to mention is the menstruation will be so after post RT, menstruation can happen, but with the ovarian reserve need not be normal, reduced. So menstruation is still possible after radiotherapy. That does not mean that the ovarian reserve is adequate. So we need to give preservation. So this method is not used now. So the second point is oocyte preservation. Oocyte preservation is otherwise called as egg banking or egg freezing. So this is useful in not like it is not for prepubertal girls. It is only for those who have attained a menstruation and who are sexually active. So at least 8 to 10 oocytes in metaphase 2 is required to produce success in future. So 8 to 10 oocytes in metaphase is taken. Third is embryo transfer. Embryo transfer is where the oocyte of the mother and the spermatocyte of the partner or from the donor is taken and we form the blastocyst and we implant it. Blastocyst is preserved. So the problem with this method is it has two steps. One is oocyte retrieval. That takes some 10 to 15 minutes. We have to go for stimulation and all. And the second one is quality embryo formation. This again takes some 10 to 15 days. So it is very delayed procedure. If the patient is planned for immediate chemo or radiotherapy, this method is not useful. So this oocyte preservation can happen by method called as vitrification. The last thing is ovarian tissue cryopreservation. Instead of taking a single oocyte, we are taking the ovary as such. So the concept is, so when a patient is having a uterus and two ovaries, each ovary represents 50% of the ovarian reserve. So instead of taking some ovary from this side and that side, what we are doing is we are removing ovary from the one side. So unilateral oophorectomy is done. We take the ovary, cut open it, ovary is cut now, and we are taking the cortex. Cortex is thinned to 1 to 2 mm. Why is the concept is, when you take the histology of the ovary, so we have cortex and we have medulla. So most of the primordial follicles, so 90% of primordial follicles lie in the 1 to 2 outer 1 to 2 mm of this cortex. So when we are preserving this layer, it is we are taking more of primordial follicles. This is capable of converting into primary follicle and successful IVF conception. So we are taking the cortex, which is thin to 1 to 2 mm, and this cortex is taken out, and we are putting slices, each of 5 cross 5 mm size. So multiple pieces we are cutting, and we are putting it in a liquid nitrogen minus 196 degrees Celsius, and it is stored for years. So this ovarian tissue cryopreservation is done with a technique called as slow freezing. So slow freezing has or it requires a programmable freezer. It's a chamber where the freezing happens in a step ladder pattern. So initially the 0 degree Celsius is maintained for 15 minutes, and then we take it to minus 7 degree Celsius. This process is taken with minus 2 degrees Celsius per minute, and then from this minus 7 degrees Celsius we go to minus 40 degrees Celsius at a rate of 0.3 degrees Celsius per minute. After reaching minus 40 degrees Celsius, we are going to 140 degrees Celsius at a rate of minus 10 degrees Celsius per minute. And then when this temperature is achieved, it is then converted or put into this liquid nitrogen. So this is the cooling curve or the step ladder pattern by which the freezing temperature is attained. So as you can see, this method is very slow and it is time consuming. It takes nearly 2 to 4 hours. So this method is slowly becoming obsolete, and we are using a method called as vitrification. So vitrification is a process which is allowing rapid cooling. Why is this word very important is, so normally when you are going for cooling, there is a formation of crystals. These crystals are toxic to the mitotic spindles. So when a cell is multiplying, you have a pole, there are many multiple spindles there that contains the chromosomal DNA materials, it is very toxic to the multiplying cells. So when you have to preserve this metaphase 2, you need to take care of the structures. So crystallization should be avoided. We are not giving enough time for the crystals to form, and hence this procedure is becoming popular nowadays. So it has two phases. One is equilibration phase, and the second one is incubation phase, rapid incubation phase. So in incubation phase, we are giving cryoprotectants. So when a cell is having a cell membrane and all the organelles, when it is undergoing cooling, the crystals are not harmful only to the spindles, also to the structure. So when the crystal is forming in the cell, so the cell can get distorted or lose its shape and function. So we are using cryoprotectants. That is 7.5% of ethylene glycol and 7.5% of dimethyl sulfoxide. This process is called the equilibration phase. That is, you can see here 0 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes. This is the equilibration phase. And then second thing is the incubation period. Here the same drug but in the 15% concentration along with 0.5% of sucrose is added, and this incubation period is only for 1 minute. It's such a rapid thing. After incubation in the vitrification solution, we are taking it to liquid nitrogen and storing it in the freezer. So this is the concept of fertility preservation.